Hello everybody and welcome to the first ever Let's Play episode of Chicken and Friends Gaming. I'm Chicken and today we are going to be starting with Dragon Warrior Monsters, and for this particular run through of the game what we're going to be doing is a special rule set I made up called Dynastylocke. It's inspired by the fact that there's a game later on in the character later on in the game, where there is a person in the area. If you've played the game before, it's called like S-Class. It's either S-Class or the Starry Night Tournament, somewhere really late in the game, who basically has three monsters from the first area that you visit who are supposed to be pretty weak. And essentially he just kind of trained them up, probably bred them quite a bit, and they were pretty powerful. And so my idea was, what if you played a rule set where you're only allowed to catch the first monster you meet in each gate, kind of like what you do with Pokemon, as far as the purpose of the storyline goes. What that means is you can still catch other ones within the gate, but you can't actually use them to advance inside of the story. So the only way to defeat this game, though, is to take advantage of its very complex breeding mechanic, which I'll kind of build on more later. That allows you to kind of learn skills and to strengthen stats enough to beat some of the later bosses. In the earlier games, you can get away with using the stuff in these particular, like, first catches or whatever, whoever you catch in these early things. Even the first bosses are kind of useful through the first several gates. But as you get later into the game, you really need more advanced skills and higher stats, which you can only get through breeding. So my idea is basically we're going to only be able to use the first you catch in each gate. But if you were to breed those particular monsters, if you were to create one of the same species, it's like creating a dynasty, like how kings and queens would have children and they would grow on to rule kind of thing in history. So basically, let's say that I catch a monster, whatever the first catch is I get in this gate, in the first one, I'm allowed to use any monster of the same species that has been bred using either that monster or an offspring of that monster later on in the game. So that's kind of what goes into that particular rule set. The lock itself does not actually start until we can use the breeding mechanics. However, the idea of only being able to use the same species starts immediately. So you can use the ones that you catch just to get through the game to get up to the breeding, but once the breeding is there, you can only use the first ones you caught in each thing. So whatever you're using that wasn't a first catch is basically no longer a part of the team, can only be used for breeding. Now this game obviously will entail a lot of grinding and a lot of kind of breeding and leveling up. Not really going to do that on screen. We can kind of do either a fast forward version of it so you can keep tabs on what I've been up to, or I'll just summarize it heading into each episode and let you know what happened off screen. But if I were to just do every single little thing that goes into this, so this would be a very boring Let's Play. So that's kind of one of the knocks on this game. It's very dungeon crawl-esque, and it's a lot of patience that's required with the breeding elements of it. So that's kind of one of the knocks on it. Otherwise, I do think this is right on par with Pokemon. I'll go into more of the history and kind of the background of it later on, but for now, let's just jump into this. So it starts here with the two main characters, Terry and Milieu, kind of just running around playing, being kids in their room, and Milieu's like, hey, it's getting late, let's go to bed. And that's where we are here. Did you forget what Mom and Dad told us? Stay up too late and you'll be carried away by monsters. What, you want to meet monsters? Don't be silly, go to bed. Heavy foreshadowing there. That's kind of like anybody, right? Like, a person who doesn't want to play these types of games will be like, why would you ever want to meet monsters? That's terrible. And the people who are into like Pokemon and these types of games are like, well, of course I would love to train monsters and do all these things. So it's kind of funny how that ends up working out. And we'll see how this kind of gets turned on its head. So, little boy, little girl in a village. Hey, that kind of describes them. Awkward. Book on the shelf, Diary of Milieu, home alone with my brother, hope no horrible monsters come out. Okay, not subtle at all, is it? And these just have their clothes in it. Let's go ahead and get into this next room over here. Oh, something pops out of the dresser. This chubby little dude coming up. Are you Milieu? Weird. You don't look like her. I'd hope not. Milieu's a girl. Your name is Terry. You're not the one. I'm a Waraboo from the Kingdom of Greatlog. Don't forget it. And he pushed me out of the way. Tell me you can't take that chubby little thing with antennas, boy. Got a lot to learn. Terry's just sitting there looking around, and he dragged her into a dresser. Weird. And a warp noise. And out pops a white version of him. Huh, what happened? Where is Milieu? And they seem to be surprised. You speak monster talk, don't you? Where is Milieu? Taken away? Oh no, it's too late. Waraboo, I'm not Waraboo. I'm Wataboo. What, you want to know where your sister is? Well, follow me. Maybe you can find her. Hope you're a skilled master. You don't understand what I'm talking about. You'll find out if you follow me. So follow a monster into a dresser? That's creepy. So this looked in front of him. The clock reads midnight. Everything bad happens at midnight. Moral of the story, kids. Go to bed when your parents tell you to. Don't stay up late. Nothing good happens after midnight. Alright, well I guess I'm gonna follow a monster into the dresser. Going against every stranger danger rule your parents have ever told you here. I guess when your sister's already stolen, that's what you do. And I spin around in a circle because that somehow helps me jump into the dresser. Ooh, creepy warp music going on. I really like the soundtrack, by the way. I've always been a huge fan of it. I know some people kind of knock on it, but I think it's really good. This game came out in 1998 in Japan. I believe it was released in 2000 or 2001 or something like that in America. I think that soundtrack's pretty far ahead for its time, to be honest. You must be the master. You must have had a long trip in there. What? You don't know where you are. You're in the kingdom of Great Tree. Wadbu brought you here. Let's get going. We have to visit the castle to pay our respects to the king. How weird is it as a kid here? He's probably like, what, 10? This dude dressed like a wizard, coming up and grabbing him and calling him master. Tell me, follow me, I'll show you the king. Weird stuff. All sorts of weird stuff. It's interesting this kid has not batted an eye. This game is created inside a big tree. We're at the bottom. The castle is at the top. Obviously, that is all castles are usually structured. All the way through the ancient polis. Just getting stuff up on the hill. Keep them all up high. Higher ground. And somehow this guy knows about it. So Wataboo's been planning this. I wonder what's going on with that. Why is he just picking these random kids? Good luck at the Starry Night tournament. Alright, at this point, if you're the kid, you have no idea what he's talking about. That's kind of creepy. Go see the king, okay. What could go wrong here? Oh no, there's a dude who's dressed like a priest over here. Strange kid in an area. It's just all going downhill for Terry here. But I have no choice but to follow this guy because I can't really go anywhere else. I am the king of this kingdom. Redundant much. Identify yourself, my child. Alright, I'm going to pick my name out. Now, another downside to the game, another critique of it, is there's really only a 4 character limit for names, so you kind of have to make do with what you have. And of course, I love to name everything in the challenges I do, so I'm going to try and make as funny and cool, interesting names as I can. Let's see here, chicken. I'm going to go with this one. Chicken. Okay. Oh, chicken, will you comply with my wish? My wish is nothing but for you to participate and win the tournament of the Starry Night. Why does it have to be me? Why does it have to be a kid? So you'd rather find your kidnapped sister. Didn't you come here to comply with my request? Oh, that's vain. Remind me of the little prince here, the vain man, the vain king. Right, easier way to search for her, win the tournament of the Starry Night. Legend has that the one who is victorious in the tournament of the Starry Night will be granted a wish. Wishes to find your sister will be granted. That way we both win. Alright, that seems awfully convenient for you, King. That is an interesting suggestion. And apparently he's king of pointing out the obvious. Without monsters, I can't be a monster master. No, really? So I gotta go visit this dude named Pulio. Interesting name. And apparently he's in charge of the monsters. And this is the only place to go because that's the only staircase available to me. Talk to this kid. Hey you came here to steal my monsters? Sure, yes I did. Give you a beating. He does not look like he can give me a beating. Oh, you're a monster master. I know by your scent you have the makings of a great master. Alright. Pulio, I take care of this farm. I heard about you from the king. Take your monsters. Well, actually, I only have one monster, an old one. Slib. It's the favorite of your last king. Choose, pick up to take the monster. Alright, so I guess we're taking Slib with us here. Now let's take a look at this one, info. Now let's take a look at the sprite here. Now this is a slime monster, as you'll come to see here. I think it'll put it right there. You'll notice it has ordinary up there. That's a personality. Right here, we got slime. That's the species. Now next to it you see family. Now family are kind of like the types of Pokemon. Some of them have different resistances or strengths to certain things. They typically learn certain skills. It's not quite the same as Pokemon typing. It's really more useful within the breeding mechanic, which we'll get into more when we get the access to the shrine. You got the monster master's name, total experience earned, and the next level. If we click enter, you'll see that's where skills go. This thing has no skills. It is weak. It is very young, and this is part for the breeding mechanic. Now, looking at the sprite of this particular monster, the slime, this was the one that kind of started it all, and in some ways, Pokemon does owe a little bit to this dude. Back in the 1980s, I believe it was 1986, either 1986 or 1988. That was the first Dragon Quest game. Now, Dragon Quest is the developer of this, hence Dragon, and then there's the monsters part. It's kind of their version of the monster-based game. This slime monster was the first monster in any video game that was able to be used within a RPG game as a kind of usable character for a storyline, basically. So it was the first you can kind of level up and train up and do things with and learn skills with. So it was sort of the grandfather of Pokemon in a way. Now, Dragon Quest obviously didn't really focus primarily on the monsters, especially at the outset. And Pokemon obviously came about in, I think, 96 it was. And they released the first Pokemon game as like the first monster-oriented game. And then around 1998, Dragon Warrior Monsters saw that there was quite a bit of popularity for the monster sprites they had in there. And they also saw the success Pokemon was having. They're like, yeah, you know what? We should probably just do our own game to kind of focus on that element, make our own storyline. So a lot of people think it's like a knockoff of Pokemon, but in reality, the kind of origins behind using monsters in this way within a game actually started in Dragon Quest in the 80s, so kind of a bit of an influence on Pokemon, if you will. Pokemon just took it way to the next level. And they're very different games, as you're going to find out. They have very different mechanics, they have very different points to them, different storylines. They're just completely different games. So this jar will eventually have some nice stuff for the game in there. Good useful items. We'll visit this farm again later on. For now, we've got our monster. Let's get into what we are going to do here. So we gotta go visit the king again. We've got our monster. We're going to the king. Oh, this monster's the former king's. What happened to the former king? How did he get in power? We got some despot going on here. Tyrant. Chicken, why did you adopt that monster? I don't know, you made me. This is the only one left, that Pulio. He must have let the other monsters escape. Pulio, bring him here. Oh, he's going Mad King. He mad, though. What's going to happen to Pulio? Pulio, your majesty, please forgive me. Pulio, did Hale escape as well? That's an interesting name for Hale. Reminds me of the Reverend Hale. A little crucible action going on. It's an interesting name for your animal. Your majesty, please forgive me. Hale escaped too. Arg, you let my precious Hale escape too. This is unforgivable. Throw him in the dungeon. 1,000,000 years dungeon. Yeah, I agree with you. Just let this guy fry. He's terrible at his job. Oh, what? What, chicken? You have something to say? I do? What? You will catch Hale for free, Pulio? You say you will catch Hale? I don't want to do that. This kid should rot. He tried to fight me. He picked a fight with me. I guess I have to save this dude. Escape through the Traveler's Gate. I guess I'm going to go through the Traveler's Gate, level 1. And we're going to go through one Traveler's Gate today. We'll get to the rest and kind of working up to the breeding mechanic later on. Kind of wanted to do this as a good just little intro video here. Make it quick. So let's go to the first Traveler's Gate. Let's check out what we have here. So obviously they're blocking my way. There's only one path. I'm going in. Going up to the top here, we've got this little warp hole over here is what you call that, I guess, in the Traveler's Gate. Let's do the time warp, yeah. Look at this go. Cool graphics. And here we are. Now, this is the song I think a lot of people would complain about getting repetitive because it does just kind of play over and over again until you get to the last level, at which point there's a song that's like customized to whatever the boss is. Now, whatever the first monster is that gets up is the one I gotta keep. So whatever comes and gets up here, that's who is my monster. This anteater is going to be something I can defeat, but it's a bit of a tough out because this thing can attack pretty hard, as you can see. It's hitting harder than my slime. Thankfully, the slime's got a bit of HP. And this is my keeper, anteater. It's Destiny. I was actually kind of hoping for a different monster that's in this gate to be able to keep, to be honest with you. Now, I do get to use them within the storyline. It would be pretty nigh on impossible, or it would be a lot of grinding, really, to try and get through this boss without doing multiple catches in this thing. But again, the lock does not actually start until we get the breeding mechanic. But anteater is going to be one of my wreckers here. That's going to be one I'm going to have to train up unless I decide to use different first catches. But Fawn, you are with me now. You'll see in the first couple of gates here, that thing's going to be pretty useful. It's got a high attack stat. Now, that's pretty typical of the Beast family group. They're pretty quick, they got decent HP, and they can attack. Their defense is usually terrible. They don't learn many magic skills, so their MP is quite low. But generally speaking, they are very strong. Hey, Slib leveled up. Now, Slib is not the most useful of creatures. He's going to be the first one to go. I'm going to be completely honest with you. A lot of people are going to be like, what? That's so disloyal to your starter. But trust me, this thing's not going to survive the game. That would be one interesting challenge. He'd be one that just dies every time. It'd be like completing the game with 2 monsters practically at some point. He does get an interesting multi-attack skill later on, but... and he... by the way of breeding should have a very useful skill, but in the general sense, this particular monster singularly here, not the species, but just this particular Slib, is not very good for the game. Alright, we got 34 HP though. He's got a lot of life there, a lot of vitality that one does. I'm going to need to pick up every item I can early on here. Look at all these herbs. Very useful. Draki. Now that was the one I was hoping I would catch first. This little vampire bat. Love the sprite. Very cute. One thing you'll note, as you can see by that first move though, they are very fast. And they grow very fast. They also have a fairly useful skill. Ah, female Draki. Okay, let's see what we'll name her. I'm not doing something related to any kind of Twilight crap here. I'm not my cup of tea. Let's see here. Female vampire. What shall I name you? I guess it really won't matter. You're not going to stick on my team very long. I'm going to name you... Batty. Batty Bat. Shout out to my Sabrina fans here. That's what I'm going to be doing here. A little bit of a closest I can do to that reference. My limited character space. Alright, cool. So I got 3 catches now, which is great. That's going to make this boss quite a breeze. He's a pretty weak boss. He's going to be another that goes pretty quickly. Now, he has useful skills, but there are several other monsters you can catch fairly early in the game that are a lot better than that particular monster. At least in my opinion. Alright. Draki's throwing some attacks here. Guess that Draki's a little quicker. And like I said, the bats, they grow fast. Bird creatures. Now, the bird family in this game, very fast growing, very intelligent, high MP, and very fast, which is nice. They're typically the most powerful. There are definitely some of the later birds that can be absolute tanks, but usually they're known more for their skills and their speed and their ability to grow and learn stuff. I don't know why that one did that. That's apparently not a very smart one, trying to cast Antidote when it is not poisoned. Antidote's just a healing spell. Nothing for it to heal, no poison. My monsters certainly don't have any poison attacks. Now, the cool thing about this game is any monster can learn any skill via breeding. So if you have a monster like my Anteater, which I'm going to have to stick with, you can really teach it any skill in the game. Which is great, because I'm going to make this thing an absolute beast. No pun intended. Alright, so let's see, 33, not too bad on the HP with the slime monster here. He doesn't exactly take hits too well, but he's got, at least got some life to back it up. Good, I need Fawn to grow. Fawn and Baddie here. Those are going to be my early game useful people, and I can get as much use out of Baddie as I possibly can within the first several gates up until the shrine is unlocked, and the shrine is just the area for the breeding in this game. But yeah, that's something pretty interesting here. I guess there's always a bit of a trope in these types of monster games with the kids as main characters, right? The kids are always the ones making stuff happen. The adults always seem fairly useless, and the kids seem to be the ones contributing to the storyline, or that have to save the world and all that. Definitely speaks to your demo, right? Alright, let's beat up this Draki monster here. Yeah, kill it, Baddie. There we go. Quick XP. Really don't know how effective training's going to be in this, because we don't really need it a lot. Got pretty low HP. I'm glad that I went for these items though, because there's a warp wing there. Now that little wing guy, the warp wing I'm talking about, allows you to return to the castle immediately. You don't keep your progress within the gate, so you have to start it over, but if you're ever in a bind and you really need to heal and your people are just going to die anyway, and the losing battles kind of punishment in this game is pretty brutal compared to other types of monster games, because you do lose just about all of your items and I think like half your gold at least. So it's quite a bit of a penalty for having all your monsters killed. And that's something that's a little darker than the Pokemon games in this game is when your monsters lose all their HP, they are effectively dead. You actually drag a coffin around with you as a sprite until you until you meet up with a minister, somebody able to heal you who revives them from death. So a little darker. And here we are at the boss. This guy shouldn't really be much of a problem for us. Had I waited just one more level before fighting him, though, I would have had a sleep move that I could have used, because the baddie will learn a sleep spell, which would be very useful for us. But this is the one thing that makes this guy difficult. His name is Healer, so obviously he's got some healing spells. Now, Baddie is an absolute monster, and Slib is trying to pitch in too here, so that's kind of helping out. And this guy was Small Fry here. So they got Hail. I'm going to name you Jelly. I really wish I had more characters. I would totally be making a SpongeBob reference here with Jelly. But, alas, I will call you Jelly because you look like a jellyfish. Slib, you can go away. Immediately get rid of you. I agree with the king. You are quite useless. You got a little good attack there, but I'm going to get better monsters in the next gate anyway. Well, the monster I'm really going to want in the next gate that I get to fight at would be the Gremlin monster. Gremlin is really cool. He that one learns a healing spell and a multi-attack spell, and yeah, it becomes very useful. It even learns a skill called a stop spell, which I don't think it'll have the proper stats to be able to learn on a first gen, like the first before you breed it, but it's very, very useful. And when you're trying to breed skills into the people for a Dynastylocke that I'm trying to run here, Gremlin is a very, very useful creature. Now, this guy is going to fall off this. Cool, go for it. I'm just going to go ahead and go into that Coliseum. I'm going to leave that as the last thing we do for today's filming. And I'll go over the rest of it in the next video here. Keep this around 30 minutes. So, got a very conceited attendant here working the desk. Very conceited receptionist. And she's letting us into tournaments. Now, tournaments are how you advance in the game. You have to defeat all of the people in this tournament without any way to heal up between matches in order to advance to your next set of Traveler's Gates. That's how you get stronger. You do not get experience for these battles, and you cannot command them, your monsters. You have to go in with a battle plan, but you cannot tell them specifically what to do. Their personalities do play a huge part in that. Now, Jelly's usefulness here is that he is pretty fast. The rest of my monsters should really do a number on these dudes, because I do not think that anybody here is going to give us that much trouble, even without healing skills beyond just the basic heal that Jelly possesses here. Now, the one guy to watch out for in this group is going to be that Stubsuck in the middle. That possessed looking tree has sleep spells, which just do the same thing you would see in a Pokemon game, basically. It's just going to make it so that your monster can't attack until it wakes up, kind of thing. But even then, this guy was no match. And one thing to note about these tournaments is that the monsters that you face ahead of the boss, and even most of the times the bosses themselves, actually are monsters you will encounter once you hit the Traveler's Gates. Now, not every person in the final match here, as we see that we're fighting the principal of the monster school that is in the arena area there. Now, those are some cool sprites. Those will be available to me in the next Traveler's Gates that I visit, but they're not the best to roll with. Zombie families are kind of interesting. They don't grow the fastest. They've got a lot of effect type spells. They're very intelligent and high life, but they are not exactly the greatest of the groups. So it's not exactly one I would be totally thrilled for. Now, Fawn just did something stupid there. It just missed its attack. I don't know what it was going for. Alright, they're seeming to target Fawn quite a bit. I think they know that it's the highest attacker. And it landed a crit. That was really helpful, because that's going to propel us to a victory here, because this Spooky can't take all three of us. Spooky can throw Lush Licks is really all it's good for. In fact, if that principal was a little smarter, he would have used his effect moves more, well, effectively. But yes, we are the champions of G-Class, which enables us to be able to visit the next group of Traveler's Gates as the minister pops through to tell us congratulations and to go see the king so that he can allow us into the next areas. So we'll get through these dialogues, and that'll do it for today's filming. But yeah, so as we go on more with this guy, we'll be interested to see just how our Anteater does here. How will Fawn fare? And who will be our next catch in the next group of gates. Now, the next time that we film, I'm going to go through a lot more of the gates. My goal for the next filming session will be to go ahead and get up to the breeding mechanic. So we got the gates of Villager and Talisman, and we have been dismissed by the king, which means we are free to pursue that. And he says that we can also use the treasure chest in the next room, which we will go ahead and grab real quick before we wrap this up. Now, this is a little thing that we get early in the game. Got 2 herbs inside of these treasure chests. Those will not regenerate at any point, I don't think, until maybe there's like an earthquake or something like that later in the game, if at all. But yeah, there we go. We got what we needed. We go to our options. We can journal the save, and there we go. So there's our team right here after the first episode. Let's take a look at the stats real quick before we head off into the sunset. So we got Fawn, level 3, 26 attack. Very strong attack, as I said. Not fast. Can't take a hit. Not smart. Doesn't have MP. Okay, HP. But really is just kind of a very powerful attacker. Very reckless personality, as we see there, so it's not going to be really well suited for skills yet. And then we've got Batty Bat. Actually, I did learn Antidote. My Batty Bat here, it's got 19 attack, 17 defense, 26 agility, 20 intelligence. You compare the stats, there really isn't a comparison. That's just one level above it. HP, MP, way better. Everything about it is just a better monster. You can see why I was really hoping we would have encountered Draki first and caught it first, because I was hoping to go on in the game with this. I actually have done this game before, trying to use a fairly similar rule set just to test it out. I didn't do fully the first catch thing, but I did use a Draki throughout the game. And I bred it to have very powerful skills, and that thing was wrecking some of the best monsters in the game. So these Drakis can be very useful. And then we've got Jelly, who is not going to be on the team for very long, but does have some healing skills, got a bit of wildness. The WLD is wildness. That's their inclination to listen to you. That's how it'll be effective, to listen to your commands. If it's high enough, they won't do anything that you tell them to do. So that makes it very difficult. It's a lot like when a badge level is not high enough for Pokemon. He's whimsy, so he's kind of carefree, does do as you please kind of dude. And he's got the spell Heal. He'll get Upper pretty soon, which is a defense buff move, which is kind of useful for some of the early bosses, but Healer doesn't last very long on the teams usually. He also can learn Heal Us, which is a full team healing move. Very powerful once it becomes Heal Us All. Very, very great move for later game stuff, but not so much for the early, because he's not going to have the types of skill sets needed to learn that in the first place. The stats are actually needed in this game to be able to learn moves, on top of like HP and MP requirements. So some of these early on dudes really do need the breeding to be able to be at their best. Batty is also reckless, by the way, so I got a very reckless attack first team so far here. You can change their personalities, having them read books, which is pretty funny, and also having them use certain battle strategies and plans over and over again will also adapt that. But anyway, at 32 minutes here, I am going to cut off the video. Please like, subscribe, comment, share our content with your friends here. Get us build as a community, my peeps. And down in the comments, I would like you to let me know, if you've played this game before, what is your favorite monster in Dragon Warrior Monsters? Additionally, one more thing I'd like you to let me know would be, looking at my teams here, who do you want to see pull through the most? Which monster are you the most fond of? What are your predictions here? Let me know. I'll try and get back to you all in the comments when you post them, and I will see you next time on Chicken and Friends Gaming.